Hello, teacher. My name is Valentina Cespedes, and today I'm going to talk about the Telltale Heart story. This short story was written by Edgar Allan Poe in 1843. He was an American writer and poet. This short story was published first by his friend James Russell Lowell in literal journal The Pioneer in January of 1843, but then in August of 1845, Edgar Allan Poe decided to republish it. I choose this story because it's one of my favorite of Edgar Allan Poe. Also, it's very amazing and interesting reads from perspective uh, of a murderer who is not a murderer, is just a, this, a mental disturbed man. The mental aspects are taboo for that age. So it's very nice to read it. Also, the protagonist is capable to feel guilt, and that aspect is not very easy to find in this type of narratives. The story unfolds in a house. This house is old, is gloomy, has enclosed spaces, dark rooms, and is in a city. All about the characters, there are two characters mainly. One of them is a mental ill man, and the second one is an old man who has a perturbant big blue eye. It covered by a cloth and lives with the protagonist. There are supportive characters like three policemen and a neighbor. Any one of them have names. The story begins with the anonymous narrator trying to convince us about his mental sanity. Also, he describes the relationship with the old man like a good one. He was very kind, but he had a perturbant big blue eye, which torments the protagonist. So, for that reason, he plans and commits the murder of the old man. For that, during 7 nights, the protagonist sneaks into the old man's room to ending his life, but in the eighth night, he chokes him, and before the old man died, he screamed, which alerts a neighbor, so called the police. Before the police arrive, the protagonist dismembers and hides the old man's body under the room, under the floor of the room, and then open the door to the police, answer his questions while they search the house. And he said that he screamed because he had a nightmare, and the old man who lives with is on a trip. But in a moment, he believes to hear a sound comes from the died old man's heart. So he um, is very nervous, very worried. But in reality, that sound comes from on his own heart. And that pressure, that guilt, makes him to confess to the policeman that he murdered the old man. To conclude this report, I think is a very exciting story. Um, is a classic, so it for show to people is very important to take into account music, movies, theater, to close people to the Edgar Allan Poe work. And about the vocabulary, I find words like ill, indeed, vulture, madman, cloth, thick, tightly, straight up, and upon. And this is all. Thank you so much.